In this fashion design workflow video, we're going to be looking at how Astute Graphics plugins can speed up your design work in Illustrator, allowing you more time to design and less time at the screen. To start with, I have Adobe Illustrator 2023 open, and my workspace currently looks like this. Yours may be slightly different. We're going to set up our workspace together, so in the top right corner we have the workspace menu, and I'm currently set to Essentials Classic, but some of my windows are still missing. So the first thing we're going to do is come up to Window menu and ensure Control is enabled. This gives us these top bar controls. Secondly, we're going to go back to the Window menu and come down to Toolbars and enable the Advanced toolbar. This then opens and shows more useful tools, including our Astute Graphics tools. You still have full control over these panels. You can drag them out and dock them into other locations. For example, I like to have the Layers panel open because I use it quite a lot while I work. Next, I'm going to open up my Astute Manager by clicking the crown in the toolbar. On Windows machines, it's down in the tray menu. We can see here that not all my plugins are installed. I just have the free items Astute Buddy, Autosavior, and Mirror Me. And then from the premium plugins, I have Dynamic Sketch, Inkscribe, Phantasm, Reform, Texturino, and Vector First Aid. And we'll be going through each of these later on. Going back into Illustrator, now we're going to open some of these plugin panels and dock them into our workspace. To find them, head up to Window, Astute Graphics, Astute Buddy. We can click and drag the panel until the blue highlight bar shows that it's going to dock alongside the others. We can go again, Window, Astute Graphics, Autosavior. For me, it's auto-docked next to Astute Buddy, which is where I wanted it. I'm going to open one more panel, Window, Astute Graphics, Inkscribe, but this time I want it separate from the others, so I'm going to drag it down so it docks underneath the Astute Buddy panel. Now to save this workspace, you'll need to head up to the Workspace button in the top right and click New Workspace and give it a new name. But it's then best to quit and restart Illustrator to confirm these changes into the settings, because Illustrator won't action the new workspace until it's been closed down, so keep that in mind. Astute Buddy is a panel that shows you the quick key presses available when you use certain Astute Graphics tools. If we go to Astute Buddy Preferences, by using the 3-bar fly-up menu, you can see it's enabled to automatically show the panel when an Astute tool is selected. Because I've docked it to the side, I'm going to disable this setting and click OK. Autosavior can autosave your work, or remind you to back up your work at certain time intervals. If we click the Settings button, a new dialog opens and we can enable it to autosave every 10 minutes, or just to remind us to save. It also gives you the option to enable multiple backups, so you don't accidentally save over a piece of work. But for this project, I'm just going to have the plugin prompt us to save every 10 minutes, clicking OK to confirm. Now that we set that all up, I've got one more thing to do before I start drawing. In my Layers panel, I have my template layer with the mannequin and the center guide. Just double-click the name to open the option dialog, and we can enable the template mode, which dims the images to 50% and automatically locks it. Now you can see that we can't accidentally draw within this layer. I'm going to show the crop top layer that I'll be working on first, and in here there is just an image we're going to trace around to get us started. Now rather than using the pen tool to trace the outline, I'm going to be using Inkscribe. Inkscribe is like the pen tool, but for me it's much more intuitive to use, and I'll show you why. You just click in the panel to activate the tool, and you can see it has some panel option buttons. But I'm going to go ahead and start drawing out the key points of my shape starting from the centre line. Now you see the annotations panel has popped up. You can turn this off in the panel or click and drag it around to reposition it. With Inkscribe, I'm not going to click and drag to make a smooth point, though it has the option to do that like the pen tool. I prefer to just plot out my points to start with. Each time I make a new point, the annotation window follows, and you can customise what quick keys or options are shown in this preferences by using the flyout menu. You can also press the close button to hide it, but I'm going to leave it open while I work. Now I'll just hide the fill colour and adjust the stroke weight and corner types of this path. And because we have the control bar enabled, we can quickly do that at the top here. Now selecting the path we just made, we can reselect the Inkscribe tool. This time I'll choose it from the toolbar. You can see that Inkscribe has added ghost handles to these paths. We can select these, and holding down the shift key we can constrain the angle of the arc. Now without leaving Inkscribe, we can move on to the next segment and click and drag to make a curve, using the large handle points to adjust it. Now we've created one half of the top, we can add some details. This time I'm going to cross the centre line and close the path, and I'll show you why that doesn't matter later on when we reflect it with Mirror Me. Going into the Layers panel, I can turn off the image so we're just left with our 3 paths and our mannequin. And we can adjust any of the other points using the Direct Select tool. Now to reflect the crop top across to the other side, I'm going to show you Mirror Me, which is a free plugin and can be found in the toolbar. It's the butterfly icon. When I click to activate the tool, the panel window will pop up if it's not already docked. Now it'll be quite intimidating if you've not used it before, because what happens is a symmetry line is added to your cursor, and as you move it, the live previews the reflections it can make. I'm going to bring it across the centre line. My Mirror Me is set to show one symmetry axis at the moment, but you may have more. So you can use the panel options to reduce it to 1, or some keyboards allow the square brackets to adjust up and down. When the cursor is in the right position, hold the Shift key to constrain the angle to 90 degrees and click down. The dialog pops up asking you if you want to apply it to a selection or to an entire layer. Now I didn't select the path to begin with, but as the crop top is in its own layer, I will select Apply to Layer Persistent. Now in the panel I have the Trim and Join paths enabled, which means that the shape that crossed the centre line has automatically reflected at the centre line to make one path. And because this mirroring is still live on the layer, any adjustments we make to one side will auto-reflect onto the other, and to turn the mirroring off, simply click the Remove Axis button in the panel, and we are left with 4 paths all joined with no pesky clipping masks. Now we're going to move on to the leggings, which I've already made a start on. So if we unhide that layer, we can see that some of the paths cross over the centre line again. So we're going to make sure we have the right layer selected and head over to the Mirror Me tool and drag the symmetry line over again. And it snaps to our guide, which is great. Click to confirm the positioning and select Apply to Layer Persistent. We can remove the axis with the button in the panel, and all the shapes have been reflected from the centre line. I want to go in now and add some movement to the clothes, and I want to show you the Reform tool. So head up to Window, Astute Graphics, Reform. Remember you can move these panels around, so I want to dock it here next to Inkscribe. And like Inkscribe, to activate the tool we can click inside the panel. Now what Reform does is it allows you to sculpt paths without having to add any extra anchor points or fiddle with any handles. As we hover over a path, it highlights the segment between 2 sharp corner points. Reform has some really useful key press shortcuts, so we can click the Astute Buddy to open the panel, and as we already have the tool selected, it shows us what options we have. Clicking will sculpt the path, Option on Mac or Alt on Windows will put it into loop mode, and Shift plus Option will enter constant offset mode. So when I hover over a segment, I can click and drag out an offset marker, the red line now showing what the target shape will be. And nothing will happen to the path unless you press Apply. So I'm going to reset to undo that Reform sculpt. Instead, I want to show you now the constant offset, which I use all the time, which Astute Buddy shows us as Shift plus Alt or Option. Now holding down these key presses while clicking and dragging the cursor will constantly offset that segment. And as the Smart Join is already enabled, it will intelligently follow the other lines in the path. And not just inwards too, but extend a path intelligently. Now you can use the Apply button in the panel to confirm your change, or you can use the Enter or Return key on the keypad to apply. And Reform has adjusted the height of this band uniformly without us having to touch any of the anchor points or handles. I'll quickly undo that and now show you the sculpt mode of Reform. This is just using the tool without any key presses. We simply hover over to highlight the section, and we can click and drag out offset markers to reshape the path. I'm going to add some creases and hide that other path that we've made for now. Just to recap, to activate Astute Graphics tools like Inkscribe and Reform, you can click inside the panel where prompted, locate it in the Advanced toolbar, or you can double-click the colour banner at the top of the panel. Now I'm just going to add some movement to the other side of my top. I'm just going to make a few adjustments to one point, and rather than using the direct select, I'm going to go back into Inkscribe, and grabbing the ghost handle I can swing that around, and I'm not sure if you can see, but a small red S appears to now show me that it's become a smooth point, which is very handy. The path that I quickly hid before doesn't match the creases we've just added, but I really want to keep this top arc segment across the chest, so I'm going to use the scissor tool to cut the path at each end and delete the rest. But I still want it to be a full path like these top pieces so I can add a fill colour later. So I'm going to copy the main body, Ctrl-C, and paste in front, Ctrl-F, so it's exactly on top of one another. Oh wait, Autosaver has popped up to give us our friendly reminder to save our work, which is great, because if anything happened to Illustrator now, we would have lost everything we've done so far. So going back, we want to join this chest piece to the body shape to make it a new shape. But there are lots of ways you can do the same things in Illustrator, like with Pathfinder or with the Shape tool, but as this is an Astute Graphics tutorial, I want to show you a tool in Dynamic Sketch. Window, Astute Graphics, Dynamic Sketch will open the panel, but what I want to show you is stacked here under the scissor tool called AG Trim and Join. Let's move that panel out of the way. What I want to do is cut away the top of the body so it now joins at this chest path. I'm going to select the anchor points and shift it across a tad so it crosses the other lines, same on the other side, and I'm going to hide the back body piece as I don't want that to be affected. We want to trim and join the copy of the body and the chest path. Zooming in so we can see and selecting the tool from the toolbar, all you need to do is click and drag the cutting line, and AG Trim and Join will auto-trim and auto-join those paths together. We now have a new closed path leaving the excess behind, which we can just delete, and we can bring in the original from before. Let's see where we're at. A useful key press, if you didn't know it, is Command 0 to zoom out to show the whole of your artboard. It's very handy. And we have both our crop top and our leggings finished. Next, we're going to add the movement lines. So we'll make a new layer called Lines, and rather than using the pencil tool, I'm going to use Dynamic Sketch. Dynamic Sketch gives you more control over your accuracy and fidelity than the pencil tool. And all the options are here in the panel, so you don't have to keep going back and forth into the Preferences dialog. Dynamic Sketch also comes with a string on the cursor, which allows you to pull the path along for more accurate corner drawings, but you can turn that off if you want to. Rather than starting my movement lines exactly on the path, I'm going to start before so I can sweep across, and then use the AG Trim and Join tool to quickly cut those off perfectly to match the intersections. Dynamic Sketch paths will stay selected until you click away, so it's really easy to change the width profile and stroke weight of them all at once. We still have the wedge width profile enabled, so now as we draw our next Dynamic Sketch path, it will draw out in that profile. We'll do the same on the other side, drawing over our intersection and using AG Trim and Join to remove the excess. Let's turn off the template layer and see what we're left with. I'm happy with that. Now to add some colour. I'm going to load up an Adobe stock repeating pattern I have downloaded. It has lots and lots of paths within a clipping group, and I'm going to double click to enter isolation mode of the clipping mask. Control A will select all, and then I'm going to change the fill colour to white. As this is artwork that I've not created, what I will do is run it through Vector First Aid to make sure it's as clean as can be, and therefore reduce the file size and stop Illustrator grinding to a halt if I ask too much of it. Window, Astute Graphics, Vector First Aid. With all the paths selected, I'm going to go ahead and click this first button, the super smart Remove All Points on Selected Paths button, which does exactly what it says on the tin. It can sometimes take a few seconds, but when it's complete it will show you how many points has been removed. It has removed 3,674 anchor points without editing the original shape of a path at all, which is not always the case with the Illustrator's Simplify option. Next I'm going to click the Check Selection button, and it will then list out in the window here all the errors it's found within the work. For example, unnecessary groups, short handles, etc. So I'm just going to go ahead and fix all. And with just a few clicks and a few seconds, we've tidied up this artwork without changing any of the shape of the original paths. And we can close that panel window now. Rather than setting this up as a repeating pattern swatch within Illustrator, I'm going to show you another way. I'm going to save this as a high-res PNG, save the converted Illustrator file, and head back into our sportswear file. I'm going to quickly give a fill colour to our paths, and then I'm going to open the texture panel. This is part of the Texturino plugin, and you can find it Window, Astute Graphics, Texture. Now I want to import the image we've just saved, so we'll click Import Texture button in the panel, locate the saved file and click Open. It will tell you the import was successful and then open the Texture Manager dialog. I have a lot of textures on my computer, but if we scroll down, our new texture will be highlighted. I want to add it to a category. Using the drop-down menu, I can pick one that's already been made, or I can create a new category, give it a name and press OK. I also want to tell Texturino that this is a repeating pattern, and I will change the initial blend mode from multiply to normal, and then click OK to confirm. Now in the texture panel you can use the category drop-down to find sports, and there is our new texture previewed in the window. I'm going to select the leggings to start with and press the big plus button in the panel to apply the texture. Now the Astute Graphics on-screen widget will appear, and each of these arms has a different function. This one is scale, and we can scale down our texture. You can also reposition the texture by clicking and dragging. You can also double-click the scale point to open the numeric value box. The reason I'm going to do it like this is that I can apply the same value to all the pieces, which I will show you. If we click away now and select another piece, we can hit the plus icon to add texture. Double-click the scale marker to enter the same value and reposition it if needed. We can add textures to multiple objects at once, but only the one highlighted in red is the active widget. You simply click the centre of the grey one to target that and make it red. I'm just going to add some plain fill to the waistband and other pieces of this garment. I can also change the fill colour of the body pieces, and because our texture was white PNG, the colour will still come through. This is my final garment, and I want to show you one more Astute Graphics plugin to finish it off. I will copy these pieces and paste them into a new layer, and then go up to Window, Astute Graphics, Phantasm to open the Phantasm panel. This panel is extensive, and you can use the fly up menu to show or hide all of its options, like the Shift to Colour option, which will automatically transform all of your paths to a single colour. But that's not what I wanted to show you. What I want to show you is the hue, saturation and brightness options. If you have made a pattern in Illustrator or in Photoshop and then you want to make a variation, it usually means that you have to travel back and forth into Photoshop or to other files to make those variations. But what Phantasm is doing is bringing that functionality into Illustrator non-destructively. And what I mean by that is that it's just an effect. It doesn't alter what's underneath, it's just adding hues, which you can easily turn off and adjust. It even works on embedded images. So with a few simple clicks, we've created some colour variations all within Illustrator. And just like that, autosave here reminds us it's time to save again. Lucky. In this tutorial, we've looked at a few of the plugins from Astute Graphics that help you speed up your design processes in Illustrator, saving you some time on repetitive fiddly tasks and freeing you up to do other things.